Read it order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. Here.
Here. Here. Rita.
Here.
Here. Donahue. Absent. Holly.
Here.
Holly here. Farnwell.
Here.
Farnwell here. Hill.
Here.
Hill here. Matt. Carr.
Here.
Carr here. Cantelo-Zylman. Cantelo-Zylman here. Larry absent. Clinker.
Here.
Clinker here. Johnson.
Here.
Johnson here. Alexander.
Here.
Alexander here.
Thank you very much. I need a motion for the presentation of the Journal of Proceedings. I need a motion to approve the City Council minutes with the date of February 11th, 2020. Do I have a motion? By Alderman Farnwell, second by Alderman Rita.
I've got a correction, if I might.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Just a minor item, but an important one. Just a correction to the minutes of the last meeting. I either was misquoted or I said the wrong thing, but the minutes state that the meeting that's happening this Thursday here in City Council are in chambers to have a job fair for for Cook County Health Systems, as well as representatives from Amazon. That listed as happening last Thursday. It's actually happening this Thursday, right here, 1:30 in the afternoon. All are invited. If you know anybody who's looking for work, send them over. 1:30 in the afternoon this Thursday, right here.
I will make that correction.
You can make a motion to correct that.
All right.
It's the under comments at the end. Under public comments.
You see it?
Okay, that's on page 6. You want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll move to correct
Make a motion
to.
to correct it. So we have a second by Alderman Bellato. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second regarding the actual approval of the minutes. Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Holly.
Aye.
Holly, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to public comment.
Rachel Roscoe. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for coming to the Black Culture Night. It was a success for all of your support. We had visitor, Johnson came, Fred Bellato, Johnny, Carr, Rayanne, we had the mayor, and Carmine. And I just want to thank everyone. It was, I believe it was a successful evening. For the first time, we had too much food, and especially chicken. I have to give that to Mike Mecca, because he donated that. But everyone contributed. We do appreciate it, and I think it was a nice event for the city, because we had a lot of people there, and we really enjoyed ourselves. So thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on the event. Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kimberly Byrne. I'm a Blue Island resident. Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council and aldermen, I wanted to continue a conversation about cannabis. I know we voted for it, as I understand it, during the community meeting, but I still have something to say. In listening to the voices for and against recreational cannabis, I hear one thing loud and clear. The term is money. Regarding recreational cannabis, it's all about how much money will be made, how the money will be made, how profits and taxes might be assigned and distributed, and how important money is to our city, especially now. Good discussion, but a little one-sided. M-O-N-E-Y. Just the sound of it tips the scale of smart decision-making. Who wants in, who's already in, and who wants more. This discussion of money is one more desperate shot in the arm of our city leadership that is convinced that this will help get our city over the slump we're falling into with some of the decisions that we're making. Our city was hit hard with the loss of the hospital jobs, and indirect purchasing effects within our city. Something we weren't prepared for or understood the impact of is how it would affect other parts of our city businesses and human needs. So we've decided to double down on vice. I'd like to introduce another term, Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, OCD, which is defined as a mental health disorder that affects people of all ages, ethnicities, and walks of life, and occurs when a person gets caught in a cycle of obsession and compulsions. Obsessions are unwanted intrusions, thoughts, images, urges, and triggers that triggers intensely distressing feelings. Compulsions are learned behaviors which become repetitive and habitual when they are associated with relief from anxiety. The cause for OCD is due to genetic and hereditary factors, chemical, structural, functional abnormalities in the brain. Compulsive alcohol or drug abuse, gambling, spending, shopping, exercising, internet surfing, sex, binge eating are evidence of OCD. I don't even need to guess that all of us have known people, neighbors, family members, friends who are currently affected by this disorder. It affects people of all ages, incomes, ethnicity, education, and backgrounds. And after doing some research within Blue Island, I found at a minimum there are 4 addiction centers right on Western Avenue where dispensaries are planned. One more term, risk. The Oxford Dictionary defines risk as a situation involving exposure to danger or exposure someone or something valued to danger, harm, or loss. Some examples of risk might include a hospital seeing more Medicaid and Medicare patients than private care, causing it to close because the risk is too high to stay at that location. That's a risk. A hospital employee with possibly 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, losing their job and feeling the need to feel better, so any one of the many bars in town are very happy to have his company at their bar. While at the drinking establishment, he does a bit of gambling. Can't make money from working? Let's try a bit of gambling, where winnings usually go to the house. Sad, drunk, empty-pocketed, his former employee drinks too much, drives home, gets a ticket, or a DUI. That's a personal risk. Or he can't drink, so because he's on the wagon. He got too aggressive with the wife last time. So he heads for a recreational cannabis dispensary, picks up some edibles, eats them in the car. A local police officer spots this happening and arrests him. So that job he applied to a week before finally contacts him. He's got good experience, available immediately. DUI, or found traces of cannabis in his urine sample. Sorry, we can't hire you. It just gets worse and worse for these individuals. But our town seems to be more interested in money. We are gambling and communicating best scenarios to ourselves and our community, and so far, we're losing. Risk that builds in a city causes several things. Companies don't see value setting up business if risk ratings of a city is too high, income averages are too low, property values are dropping, other businesses are not moving there. One risk rating is the city bond rating. Cities use municipal bonds to borrow money for improvements. A city's low bond rating means trouble paying bills or information auditing can't trace what is reported because information management is poor and documents can't be found easily. I know this from a real-life situation because I used to work for the District of Columbia, where they were getting ready to lose their AAA bond rating, where information audits found missing information supporting reporting. All documents were paper and not digitized. If a city can't pay bills, taxes get higher, like adding 3.5% to an already 5% tax rate to cover 2019 revenue shortfall. Next year, it'll be +7, and then +10. And if we are in a recession during this time, which a pandemic will cause, then we may be looking at bankruptcy. Taxes get higher in a city that has an emptying commercial revenue generating area. Families don't want to move in. Families don't move in. Property values drop just to turn inventory. Property values drop, desperation sets in, and where people are have a significant vested interest in their residential properties, they feel stuck and they feel angry. Rents go up to cover other losses, and fingers start wagging at municipal government for bad decisions that continue to be made that help special interests and not the community. How do we expect to build viable businesses in Blue Island when the city decision-making continues to be risky and seems to cater to special interest? Why would companies want to come here? We are attracting only poverty, like some other neighborhoods on the south side that have to have bars on their windows for safety. So as you consider your decision-making on approving recreational cannabis, remember some things. There are a lot of people desperate to find work coming off the loss of the hospital. Continuing to bring in more vice businesses into Blue Island and a downturn in the economy will also be followed by crime, which will end up in the hands of the police in handling it. Love living in a police state? We'll get ready. Isn't 4 addiction centers too many for our small city? Is risky decision-making the goal to empty our city, but controlling wealth? I don't have to remind you that there's an election coming up in Blue Island. I urge you to consider your decision to want to work with the community to change risky decision-making, or prepare to watch a ship on fire where your friends, family, co-workers depend on you, and all you can come up with is more vice for our city. And there's nothing going on but the rent. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Alan Stevo. That was truly a tour de force. I really enjoyed listening to Ms. Byrne. The cannabis issue, ordinance number 2020-010. I'm asking the council, mayor, city council to table it. And as I requested earlier, please let the voters decide what kind of community they want to live in. Let them decide if they want this or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
About the sale of the property at 2427 Burr Oak, I know some people that were interested in buying it or putting a bid on it, and the process is an unfair process. It might be legal, but it's unfair. And it's an inside deal where at a previous council meeting, Alderman Bellato announced this would be sold to Becker's Pizza. Decisions were made already. Alderman Cantelo-Zylman, your brother, former Alderman Cantelo, is buying this property. Inside deal. How will former Mayor Poloquin benefit? Unanswered. Inside deal. We're asking to table this ordinance and re-advertise and sell the property fairly. I asked Alderman Bellato at his community development meeting why he led the charge to not accept the $5 million that Quorum Healthcare Metro South wanted to give the city of Blue Island, and he refuses to answer. So that's why I'm here tonight. I'm holding Alderman Bellato accountable. Alderman Bellato, we want answers. Why did you refuse this money? Why did you not vote to accept this money? And I'm waiting for an answer.
I answered you at the committee meeting.
I'm waiting. Oh, let's have an answer for tonight.
And I'm going to answer you again at the next
The
meeting.
$5 million could have bought ambulances, fire trucks, more personnel, better trained personnel, EMTs, and because of that, the residents are not receiving this. And we're holding you responsible. We're holding this action of yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We wish we could tell you you're welcome for accepting the $5 million.
I appreciate it.
But you refused to, as you said at your meeting, petty politics. Was it because it might make Alderman Vargas look too good?
I accused you of petty
Is that what
politics.
it is?
I
Petty
accused you of
politics.
petty politics,
No,
Mr.
it's not
Stevo.
petty. $5 million.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
$5 million is not petty.
Thank you.
And I was asked to bring this up also for the meeting tonight. Robbie Silva, we need justice for Robbie Silva. That happened in the 2nd Ward, your 2nd Ward Alderman. When are you going to bring justice for Robbie Silva? When will Alderman Cazares bring justice for Robbie Silva? I'm waiting for an answer.
We were in high school when it happened, Mr. Stevo.
We're not talking about then, we're talking about now.
Just saying.
You have this power to bring justice. When are you going to bring
Thank you.
this to it?
Thank you.
When are you going to investigate the obstruction of justice
Thank
in
you.
the police department that cost the city taxpayers $5 million? When will you do this, Alderman? I'm waiting for an answer. When will you start? Alderman Cazares, when will you begin?
Thank you for your question.
Pardon me?
Thank you for your question.
Mr. Stevo,
We're holding you accountable.
thank you very much.
Oh, one more. When will you bring justice to the murder of Carlos Salgado? Alderman Cazares? Alderman Vallado, when will this happen?
Thank you
Now
for
that
your
you have
comment.
this power?
Thank you for your
Is
comment.
there a quid pro quo? Don't investigate us, and we won't investigate the obstruction of justice. Quid pro quo?
Thank you, Mr. Stevo. I appreciate your comments.
And then we move on to report of city officials regarding the mayor's announcements. I have a question, and maybe we can figure this one out. Regarding the ordinances coming up regarding the cannabis, have we thought about ethic safeguards? For example, if the city treasurer, myself, and our clerk decided to have something, an interest in the dispensary, is there anything to safeguard that any elected officials or their family members are prohibited from owning an interest in a cannabis dispensary? I think that needs to be addressed. Any elected official, present, future, and family members. The other thing I think that needs to be addressed, I've heard it through the community, both on social media and on the street, and maybe our city attorney knows the answer, or council out there, about the requirements about the FOIA and the Open Meetings Act certifications regarding the members of the zoning board, whether or not their vote is valid as a result of some of them not being certified.
Their vote is not invalidated by virtue of that.
Can you speak into your microphones, please?
They need to.
I'm sorry. I said their vote is not invalidated by virtue of the fact they do not have their certification yet.
I just wanted to make sure that the record's clear regarding that. Regarding mayor's announcement, we want to thank again Community Block 37, phenomenal event here last Friday. We want to thank the elected officials who came, the presentation, the volunteers who always do a tremendous job, the residents who came out and attended the event. You learn something every time we come. Every time we come, we learn something new about the black community, a big part of Blue Island that needs to be known also, of the culture, the food, and everything else. Again, congratulations to Neighborhood Watch Group 37 on that block group. Report, City Clerk, any business?
I have one item and then one announcement. I'll make the announcement first, I guess, that Louis Gallo of Blue Island has been admitted to Good Shepherd Manor in Moments. If anyone wants to get in touch with him, his mailing address is P.O. Box 260, Moments, Illinois 60954.
Okay. As we all know him here is Big Lou. He's the young man who we always see riding around in town on the bike, hanging around both the police station, fire station, not only here in Blue Island, but he's our adopted son, adopted volunteer, ambassador of Blue Island. So again, let's reach out to him and send him our best wishes and not forget him, please. Anything else?
I do have I need a motion to approve a request from St. Benedict Catholic Church to hold their Via Crucis Stations of the Cross on Good Friday, April 10th at 12 noon. They're asking for street closure and police escort.
Thank you. Great pronunciation of your cruises. Congratulations.
I'm learning.
Motion by Alderman Tom Hawley, second by Alderman Carr. pathway. Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Any bids?
No bids, Your Honor.
City Treasurer.
Everyone should receive hand printout of the unrestricted and unrestricted funds transfer. Need a motion, please?
Motion by Alderman Farnwell. Do we have a second by Alderman Ringo Hill? Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas. Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
I'm sorry. No.
No. Johnson, okay, Johnson, no. I was going to say, I was wondering if you were right over there. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 10 ayes and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to introduce from Tax Credit's office, Stephanie. She's going to be reviewing and explaining the audit 2018. I don't have to explain why it's displayed, but hopefully within a week or two, we'll be starting the 19, start the process with 19 on time, and hopefully be completed by March or so, June.
June, yeah.
Thank you. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Blanco from John Caspera Company. I'm a partner at the firm that we performed the audit for the city for 2018. You should all have a copy of the report in front of you. So we're going to do, of course, as a 114-page report. We're just going to point out some of the important pages and the pages that I think would be more important for you to take note of, to look at later and more in depth. And after the presentation, after you have a chance to review it, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we can make sure and answer any of those questions for you. So we'll start on page 2. Page 1 and 2 is our opinion. That's what encompasses everything of what we have tested, what our audit report comes out to. And on page 2, the top paragraph is our opinion paragraph, which lists that we have an unmodified opinion. That's the cleanest opinion that you can get in an audit that says that we feel that everything was reasonably stated. The next page is page 3, and this starts the management's discussion and analysis. This is from page 3 to 13. This is a condensed version of everything in the report, and it also includes comparisons for 2018 and 2017. So this is a really good basis of information for you to look at to condense and summarize what's in this entire report for those pages. We're going to skip to some of the pages that I think are going to look more familiar to what you're used to looking at. So we can go to page 18. And when you get to page 18, you'll see this is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This lists your general fund in the first column. There's 3 rows for your 3 of the TIF funds that are considered major funds, and then all of your non-major funds. The non-major is a combination of a lot of other funds, and we'll get to those way later in the report. But right now we want to focus on, this is your general fund, and you can see this year the excess, or the deficiency of revenues over expenditures was a $207,000 loss. Overall for the city, all the way to the right, was a $932,000 loss. You can see in the middle there, 2 of the TIFs, TIF 3 and TIF 5, are big portions of what that overall loss was. And a brief description, TIF 3, $1.4 million was a surplus because that TIF closed out at the end of the year and that money had to be given back to the county, so that created that big expense there. And then for TIF 5, that was the Metro South redevelopment agreement that had been in place. So that was a big cause of what some of those losses were. And then overall in the non-major funds, we had a 1.2 surplus. So we'll see later how those all come out together. Page 22 is your proprietary funds. So this is the revenues and expenses of your water fund and your golf fund. One thing I do want to point out on the golf fund, because I know there were questions about this last year and there have been ongoing questions. If you look in the 3rd section where it was services. The third line from the bottom is your utilities for water. And you'll see in the golf course, there's $136,960, and that's reflecting that the golf fund is paying for their water usage. So that's what, we didn't have that in there last year. It was something that was implemented in 2018, so they are paying that now. So that's a new expense line that you will see in there. And if we go a couple pages ahead to page 24, you can see the bottom line on those proprietary funds. Right in the middle of the page, before the bold heading, you'll see operating income and loss. And you'll see the water fund operated at a surplus of $494,000 this year, and the golf course was a deficit of $170,000. Now, out of that deficit of $170,000, we just explained that the $136,000 was water, so that was a big difference over last year. And for the water side, the prior year was actually a $200,000 loss, but your capital expenditures went down, and actually the overall bills from the city of Chicago did go down this year, almost $500,000. So that reflects in why there was such a swing in the water fund. Next page I'll point out is page 28. Page 28 to page 72 is a lot of accounting and actuarial jargon that is a general description of all the policies and procedures within the financial statements and descriptions. So what we're going to do is just point out a couple of those that I feel are important to identify. The majority of the first 10 pages, the language doesn't change. The last 20 pages is related to IMRF, your police and fire pension funds. So that's the bulk of it. So if we skip ahead to page 41, page 41 just lists your capital assets, and you can see on the first page 41, it's your governmental activity, so that's your general fund. On page 42, you'll have business type activities, and that's your water and golf. And then at the bottom of 42 is a component unit, which is your library. So this is the capital assets of what you had at the beginning of the year, your increases, decreases, and ending. Page 43 is an important page. Page 43 has your interfund receivables, payables, and transfers, what those balances were at December 31st of 18. See, there's a big chart, and we have two columns of who's to receive the money and who's paying the money. So this comes out to where you see all these interfunds, and a lot of them were reflected to the TIFs, and there is some still between the water and the golf course and the motor fuel tax. So this, you'll see a combined total at the beginning of the financial statements where you'll see these interfunds. So this gives you the breakdown of what is actually due between each of those funds. Page 44 starts your long-term debt, and there's actually several pages on your long-term debt. It is broken out again between your governmental and then your proprietary funds. One thing I do want to point out in your long-term debt on that first schedule on page 44, in the chart closer to the bottom in the middle of the page, there's the net other post-employment benefits obligation, and you'll see that the ending balance for that was $15 million. What that is that's a new GASB requirement, that the governmental accounting standards that had to be implemented. And what that is for any retirement or which post-retirement benefits you would be offering, which is typically medical, for anyone that is allowed to stay on the plan. Even if they have to pay the premiums themselves, it's still considered that there's expenses to the city. It's always a pay-as-you-go. You're not required to fund it, but it was a new accounting requirement for governments that we have to put this number in here. So this $15 million liability was not showing up on the books prior to this year because it wasn't required to be, and now that is. So that's where there's such a large jump on there. Over 13 million of that was actually the liability at 17, but it wasn't recorded in the report as such. And like I said before, the next 20 pages, all the way through the rest of the notes, are notes on your IMRF, police, and fire pension, as well as those other post-employment benefits. So we're not going to go through the details of all of those. It's a lot about the actuarial assumptions and what they use to come up with those numbers. But I will have you look at page 73. So page 73 is what you're looking at, your schedule of changes in the employer's net pension. So 73 starts with, you'll see in the heading, the fourth row down, it says, this is your IMRF. So towards the bottom of the page, maybe about 4 rows up, it says plan net position as a percentage of the total pension liability. This is how funded you are for each of these different programs. So we'll look at these 4 because they are important. Your IMRF is typically going to stay mostly funded because the IMRF makes sure that they are. They give you what your percentage is. There's no really arguing what that is. They'll tell you what you have to pay. And so that's why those stay fairly consistent. The next page, page 74, those are also really high. That's your IMRF, that's your SLEP plan for sheriffs. Page 75 is your police pension fund. So I want to point this out because it looks a little funny when you're looking at that plan net position as a percentage of your total liability, and it was 30.94 at 12/31/17, and it went down to 28.76. I do want to point out in the middle section where you have plan fiduciary net position, your contributions employer, that's what the city contributed to it. The city did increase what their contributions were, so they increased what they were funding. But 2 rows down from that, you can see that in 17, the net investment income was a $1.3 million gain, and in 2018, the investments actually lost almost $500,000. So that was a $1.8 million swing in the funding of that pension fund related to the investment losses, not because the city wasn't funding. And page 76 is your firefighters pension fund, and it has very similar situation. The funding overall percentage went down from 23.68% to 20.17%, but if you look again, the employer contributions did go up about $150,000, but that investment net income again went from a $500,000 gain to a $240,000 loss. So overall, the plan being funded is funded at a lower percentage of what the liability is, but it's not due to decreased contributions from the city. It's an overall effect of the investments. And the next page, page 77, is a similar chart. Again, these last 3 charts will go out to 10 years ultimately. The standards where we report these only came out 4 years ago, so that's why we have 4 years worth of data now. And again, like I just mentioned, for those post-employment benefits, this was the first year it was implemented, so that's why we only have 1 year. And you will not have a percent funded because you do not have any trust to fund it right now. It's all just a pay-as-you-go basis. Now, if we go to page 84, page 84 to 101 are your budget to actual for your general fund. So this will list what was actually budgeted for all your revenues and expenditures, and then what was spent. The first page is a summary. 84, you can see it's really condensed into just some very narrow categories. And then on page 86, it gets into a lot more detail. So all those detailed line items where you were budgeting for everything throughout the year would be listed here for your budget to actual. So those are if you're looking for anything specifically how it came out during the year. If we go to page 104, these are all those non-major funds I mentioned at the beginning of the report that had an overall surplus of $1.2 million combined between the funds. You can see the names of these funds are listed across the top of page 104 and page 105. And then in about the middle of the page on 105, you can see where it has that excess revenues all the way in the right, that 1.2 million. So that's where those numbers come from. It's a combination of all of these different non-major funds throughout the year. And then following those would be your budget to actuals for the non-major funds that had budgets. So your TIFs wouldn't be included.
Are you on page 105 right now? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm on page 105.
Okay.
Yeah, and then once you follow page 105, then like on page 106, it starts those budget to actuals.
Okay.
For those non-major funds that have budgets adopted, that have legally adopted budgets. And the last page, I'll point out page 111. This one, I just point out, it's your combining statement of fiduciary pension trust funds. So this is your police and fire pension fund. This is the summarized data from their audits that just show you how much came into each of those different funds, what the total deductions were, and what those net changes in their plan positions were. So you see that each of those net change in plan position decreased in both of those. But as I pointed out earlier from the detail, it was really related primarily to investment income. So that kind of sums up the main points of it. Is there any questions? Any specifics? Yes.
Said it was 1.4, 1.5 allocated to the Midwest school system.
Yes, the surplus has to be given back to the county, and then what the county does, the county will do the calculation to reallocate it and then distribute it out to all the municipalities that were a part of that TIF.
Okay, but it was a little over $6,000 that was still left in that TIF.
Yes.
What happened to it?
That is still there. That is still there, and that's actually a very low amount to be left in a TIF when you issue the surplus, when a TIF is first closed, because of the repercussions of tax. If anybody still is fighting their taxes and rebates have to be issued, if anyone fights their taxes and gets refunds, the city's still on the hook for those. So we often recommend, and this would be really more of a TIF attorney, but we typically, even from our firm, would recommend that you leave some money in there, you know, $100,000, a couple $100,000, to leave that in there in the meantime for a few years to make sure that all of those appeals are paid out prior to issuing all of that money. So in this case, the decision was they left a smaller amount, a couple $1,000s to be in that account, but that's why there's typically an amount left for now. So eventually, after several years, once the city knows those and the attorneys are comfortable that there's not any more appeals going to come in through those TIF funds, then at that point, that could be decided to remit the remaining amount back to the county.
Okay, so does that still account for the people who had not paid for, their taxes?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Like, say for instance, I didn't pay my taxes, but I owe. So does that? Are we still waiting on those people as well?
Yeah, as far as people that aren't fighting, that haven't paid their taxes, that's a whole separate issue from what this TIF surplus is. The TIF surplus is just for, these are actual taxes that had been accumulated because they'd already been collected. So these were all taxes that were paid and that were sitting in there, and then they weren't spent, so now they got sent back to the county. So if the taxes were never paid to begin with, they're not going to get any refund out of that money that was sent back to the county. But there wouldn't, the county handles all of the collection processes for handling delinquent taxes. That's done at the county level.
Right, but no, I was just saying if, would that be contributed towards that six whatever?
I think what he's asking is if those taxes are later paid, would that flow into the TIF fund?
Yeah, well, the county, I'm not sure exactly what the county would handle if somebody paid late that was supposed to be TIF monies that went through it. But effective, once you close it, the county's no longer responsible for collecting those TIF monies, is my understanding.
And go back to the taxing bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions from the Alderman? Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, need a motion? Alderman Ringo Hill, second by Alderman Carr. Any questions? Roll call.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Holly.
Aye.
Holly, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
No.
Johnson, no. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 10 ayes and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
The only thing I want to say is this: if anyone in the Alderman or any constituent has any questions in the future about the audit, please address them to the Finance Committee Chair, Kevin Donahue, and that way they'll get coming addressed to the Treasurer and the Finance Department. And we'll get an answer to him, and we'll get an answer to whoever's asking. So please try to follow the process, because the audit's very complicated. So if you have questions in the future, or if not the audit, if you have questions about Finance Department or anything like that, please address them to the chair. The chair will address them to the finance, the treasury, or the finance department.
Anything else? Thank you very much. City Attorney.
Just briefly, Mayor. As you may recall, in August of last year, the City Council adopted a municipal gas tax of 3%, or a local motor fuel tax of 3%. There was some sort of confusion as to whether the Department of Revenue was authorized by that by the legislation that permitted that to collect the motor fuel tax. So in December, the legislature passed another statute clarifying matters, but will require this City Council to first rescind the old ordinance and then adopt a new ordinance to implement the 3% gas tax. We've prepared a draft. I'll give it to Alderman Donahue for consideration by his committee. And what that will do is it should be passed or adopted prior to April to assure that the Department of Revenue will begin collecting the tax in a timely manner. I just bring that to your attention because I will be sending Alderman Donahue that ordinance for his consideration by his committee.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Addressing to the attorney, is there any major change in the collection? Is there any major change in the collection?
No, the collection will be by the Department of Revenue, but the new legislation required the city or the municipalities that impose the tax to pass a new ordinance with the language required.
Okay. That was also, Ms. Burke, I asked the question if that money was going to be separately identified as it comes into the city, and she had gotten back to me saying that that was going to be a separate, so we can keep track of it. And as of yet, we have not collected anything.
No, the Department of Revenue has not been collecting the tax, and so they will, and then they will remit it to the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Council?
That's it.
That's it. Committee reports, Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have very lengthy minutes from our last meeting on February 19th. It was from 7 to 10:30 p.m., but roughly the main agenda item was the cannabis text amendment. About 35 people in attendance, approximately 21 people spoke. In general, 14 were in favor, 7 against, and very detailed minutes here, several pages long, going through all the issues, but same issues that were discussed in the past meetings that we brought up, and the amendment has been changed a few times. In the regular meeting, we had some regular business that we discussed. There's a motion by Cazares, second by Cantelo, to approve the Dollar Tree sign variance located at 12625 Western Avenue. All ayes were motion carried. There's a motion by Cazares, seconded by Alexander, to approve the sale of an agreement of 12751 Lincoln Street to Blue Ridge Properties, 2427 West 127th Street to Lyric Venture LLC. All ayes. Cantelo abstained. Motion carried. There was a motion by Bellato, seconded by Alexander, to approve the purchase and development of 13747 Western Avenue to Diesel Doctor Corporation. All ayes. Motion carried. Motion by Cantelo, seconded by Cazares, to approve the demolition of 2050 West 119th Place, 12419 Greenwood Avenue, and 13826 Chatham Street. All ayes. Motion carried. There was a motion by Cazares, seconded by Bellato, to approve the MWRD Second Lease Amendment Agreement, particularly for the use of Bios Farm. It was passed, and it's on tonight's agenda. All ayes. Motion carried. Motion by Bellato, second by Alexander, to approve the intergovernmental agreement with South Suburban Land Bank to for an acquisition agreement. This to go after an additional 15 properties or so that was in the intergovernmental agreement. All ayes. Motion carried. Motion by Bellato, second by Alexander, to approve a Class 8 incentive for new construction at 13550 Chatham Street and a Class 8 for 13551 Chatham Street, both the same developer. All ayes. Motion carried. There was short presentations by two separate solar power groups wishing to do business within the city. There was an update given on the parking lot on Western Avenue, right behind Dunkin' Donuts, that's sinking. We have some results that will be discussed at our next meeting on March 11th to see how we're going to address that, hopefully repave that parking lot. There was discussion on speed monitors, particularly around school zones. Robinson Engineering gave us some information. We'll discuss this in length at the March 11th meeting. Hopefully some grant money can cover that expense. Ophelia Smith and Alex Leifman came in to discuss issues with the building they're redeveloping, the old Klein's building, and the committee gave feedback and requested the parties to follow through the special use process that they have to go through for an amendment. There was a motion by Cazares, seconded by Alexander, to approve design and purchase of a Census 2020 banners along Western Avenue from 119th to 135th on every other light pole for a total quantity of 60 banners. All ayes, motion carried. And that was already approved by Finance, and the company is just waiting for a deposit to be sent over. There was discussion of the 3 properties on Old Western that need to be addressed, 13301, 13337, and 13426 Old Western. This is Maple Tree, the green burned-out building across from the Blue Island Beer Company. Maple Tree is supposedly, I haven't touched base with the building department, had an inspection yesterday. They were already told the majority of that has to be torn down. The green burned-out building across from the beer company is being going after by the land bank. Mark Miller is handling that issue. And the other one with the former Esparza's restaurant is being handled just through the regular housing court violations. There was discussion on the pop-top policy to regulate the dramatic expansion of a property from the exterior. That's continued discussion. It'll probably be continued again in the March 11th meeting. This is if adding a second floor to a bungalow or something like that. There was discussion on how to minimize the aesthetic look of that, like other towns like Berwyn has addressed. Motion by Alexander, seconded by Cantello, to approve the purchase of 38 concrete planters to replace existing ones along Western Avenue. All ayes, motion carried. That has been sent to the Finance Committee. Motion by Alexander, seconded by Cazares, to deny a peddler license to Missionary Church of the Disciples of Jesus Christ. I believe they said it was out of Texas. All ayes, motion carried. Sarah Brown gave the marketing report. Howard Kapari gave the billing report. The meeting ended at 10:33 p.m. Our next meeting is March 11th here at 7 p.m. Several motions on the agenda tonight. Number 1, a motion to approve for demolition of properties located at 2050 West 119th Place, 12419 Greenwood, and 13826 Chatham.
Got a motion, do we have a second? By Alderman Farwell. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bellato.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I did notice in, Alderman Bellato, I did notice in the ordinance that there were, I think, 2 other addresses. One was, I think, like 1926 High.
That's under the agreement that those are part of the list of properties that he wants to go after next.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Cazares.
Aye.
Cazares, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have an ordinance 2020-006, an ordinance approving and authorizing the Second Amendment to lease agreement dated June 11, 2013, between the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago and the City of Blue Island. And the easy way to say it, this is the Bios Farm, a lease agreement. We've separated and gone through the hoops of separating that portion out of the regular lease agreement that MWRD had issues with the farm selling produce and et cetera, other issues we were dealing with. And they've approved on their end this lease agreement, which would allow the farm to continue under what they were doing before. And then from this point forward, after talking to the farmers, Larry and Joey, we'll have to work out agreement with them to satisfy. There's a list of things they would like to get done, to get moving. We'll do that pretty quickly here because the growing season's right around the corner. So I'm asking for a council to approve the separation out of the regular lease agreement.
There's a motion. Is there a second by Alderman Tom Hawley? Any questions? Roll call.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Cazares.
Aye.
Cazares, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
We have ordinance 2020-009, an ordinance of the City of Blue Island and Cook County, Illinois, approving intergovernmental agreement between the South Suburban Land Bank, the Development Authority, and the City of Blue Island for the acquisition of certain properties through abandonment proceedings. And this is just to name a few: 1913 High Street, 2122 119th Street, 2122 Broadway, 2125 Grove, 2334 120th Place, 2414 James, 2728 135th, 3127 141st, 11904 Ann, 12816 California, 12929 Mozart, 12945 Mozart. And any of these addresses stick out because if they're in your wards, they've been empty for a very long time. So we're going to go, this agreement will go after these to begin with, and other ones that Mark has been keeping an eye on.
So we got a motion. Do we have a second by Alderman Farrell, by Alderman Rita? Any questions?
Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Holly.
Aye.
Holly, aye. Farinwald.
Aye.
Farinwald, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes.
Thank you.
The next one, I'll go over a timeline first before I ask for roll call, Mayor.
Go ahead.
And I did it in my committee meetings, just to clarify if anybody's watching, for the cannabis text amendment. We started this process in community development in September 11, 2019. Public comment and an opt-in vote was taken and sent to City Council to opt in. And at the same time, September 16th, at a Finance Committee, a 2.5% tax was passed, an ordinance. There was public comments. We sent that to City Council. On September 24th, the City Council meeting, we had public comment, an opt-in vote was taken. It was passed unanimously by the aldermen that were here on September 24th to opt in, to start the process that I'm going to go through. So September 30th, the City Council from the Finance Committee established a 2.5 additional sales tax. On October 9th, 2019, Community Development discussed it and decided to send it for a public hearing, which we had a public hearing on November 20th. At the public hearing, we had hours of testimony. We referred it then to Planning and Zoning. Planning and Zoning are two advisory committees by the city. They met on two separate dates. December 11th, we had Community Development. It was an agenda item. We continued pending the Planning and Zoning committee meetings. December 12th, Planning and Zoning met. They decided to have a joint meeting, 14-member committee. They met with a 30-day notice and all the stuff they have to go through for the zoning. They had 3 hours of testimony and discussion, and it was tabled to a January 6th Planning and Zoning meeting, which they passed the ordinance with multiple changes that are in the ordinance today, and they had 2 hours of testimony and discussion. January 8th, we just received this the day before at Community Development. We decided to table it for review. Then we had another meeting February 19th last week. We had about 3.5 hours of testimony, and we tabled it today. Today we passed it to the City Council. I just want to reiterate, the biggest thing in the agenda, in the thing that Planning and Zoning put into the ordinance is location by location zoning. So this is just allowing sales in town with all the restrictions that Planning and Zoning put in there. If anybody applies, and I'll go over just one detail that was over and over again, there's only 47 licenses coming out May or June for the entire state. So we might have no issue with this, nobody might even apply, but let's say someone applies, it's special zoning, so it would have to go through a 30-day notice. Planning and Zoning would have to meet. They have to notify hundreds of feet in every direction, every single resident or business in the area. They would have their meeting of planning, they would have their meeting of zoning, they would have discussion, public meeting there. It would then go to Community Development. It would probably go to several committees before it goes back to the City Council. So there's no automatic, like our liquor license, where it just gets approved pretty quickly. This is a long, drawn-out process, and we're very unusual by doing this. So it's very stringent, it's very strict ordinance when it comes to that, because it'd be a lot more community development if anybody actually ever applies. So that's one of the things that we've put in there, and Planning and Zoning added in there. That is a great thing that's in the ordinance. So going through the whole dates like that, I'll make a motion based on Community Development's approval for ordinance 2020-010, an ordinance of the City of Blue Island, Cook County, Illinois, amending the zoning ordinance of the Code of Blue Island, Illinois, regarding adult-use cannabis.
There's a motion, is there a second? By Alderman Casares. Any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have one, and first off, I'd like to compliment everybody who's been involved from the city's perspective, especially Alderman Bellato. It's been a very long and complicated process, and I think it's been handled very responsibly, so I tip my hat to you. But I do want to suggest an amendment. I hope it won't be controversial. I don't mean it to be to this. And I also apologize for bringing this up at kind of a late moment, but I've been giving this a little thought over the last week and hearing what the mayor's comment was today. I'd like to move to amend this to prohibit any elected city official from having any ownership interest in a city-regulated cannabis establishment. I think that it would help from the perspective of the public who are concerned about that this be a clean operation, that city officials not be in a position to profit from it, and it just seems reasonable to me, so I'm going to put that motion up and see if it goes anywhere.
So there's a motion, is there a second? Second by Alderman Johnson. Any questions?
So the motion is to amend?
To prohibit any elected official
To have an ownership
Ship
interest in an establishment
Right.
authorized
in this ordinance,
pursuant to this ordinance.
and I am in favor of the ordinance.
We got a motion, we got a second. Any questions?
How is his business different from the other business?
You have a question?
Yeah, if I can be
Go ahead.
recognized.
Yeah.
It's a good thought. Is it appropriate, and Mr. Horvath, maybe your comments also, is it really appropriate in a zoning as opposed to, say, an ethics ordinance?
You can incorporate it into this, and if they want to then add to an ethics ordinance or create an ethics ordinance to supersede, they can do that. But it would then make a record of that fact. It doesn't change the zoning ordinance at all, other than expresses a policy of the city. So you can vote on the amendment, certainly.
We got a motion, we got a second. Roll call, please.
This is on the amendment.
Yes.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Aye. Rita, aye.
Aye.
Holly.
Aye.
Holly, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman. Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
No.
Alexander, no. 10 ayes and 1 no.
Thank you very much.
Members of the council, what I will do is, we will have to incorporate this into the ordinance in a section, and then we will bring back to you for consideration an ordinance establishing that as part of the ethics ordinance of the city.
I make a motion to reconsider then.
I second it.
Wait, hang on a second. This is for the ethics one. It's nothing to do with this one, right?
Has nothing to do with this.
So we're still going to vote on this one tonight. Right.
But the attorney just said he has to bring it back.
No, I just said I would bring it back as part of an ethics ordinance. But if you
Not
want
this
to
one.
set the policy tonight, which you've indicated by a 10-to-1 vote, you can do that. It'll be there, and then when we get it back through your committee process, if you want to do it that way, we can do it that way. And we'll bring it back to you through your committee process, and then you can add it to your ethics ordinance.
I have no issue with the ethics ordinance. This ordinance, totally separate, with no respect to the respect bill, Alderman Farnwell. There's time constraints, and I'd like to, we can do that separately.
Then why don't you just leave this in that ordinance with the amendment as it is?
It can still get voted on tonight.
It could get voted on.
That's all I'm
tonight.
questioning, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to bring the whole ordinance back, no.
Okay.
That's what it sounded like.
No,
that's why-
no,
that's
no,
why I
no,
said-
no,
That's what
no,
it sounds like.
No,
Yeah.
I apologize, no, just what you amended, I would add that to your local ethics ordinance.
Okay.
And you can vote on it.
So this ordinance stays exactly the same?
This ordinance will stay as
Yeah,
it
that's
with
why.
this amendment. Yeah,
I knew that's where
Okay.
you were going.
All right.
That's why.
All right, got through that.
Matt?
Next.
Do you have any additional comments?
So we
No.
need to vote
I
on.
wouldn't want this ordinance to go up in smoke, okay?
But, all right, on the passing of the ordinance then, right?
Yes.
Okay, Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Holly.
Aye.
Holly, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11.
Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like I want to make a statement. I totally agree with what's going on here, but I just want to make myself a statement. In the past 12 years, as alderman, treasurer, other affiliation to this council, elected official, I ran across a lot of opportunities that I could have easily purchased stuff that the city was selling. You never did, to my benefit, never did. Even to this day, there's stuff going on that I could very easily bid or buy or purchase or whatever. You never did. Now, I can go back 30, 40 years ago. Yes, there's a lot of that stuff going on. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Council, do you have any blessings?
I do have some, I just want additional clarification. The more I'm thinking about this, and Alderman Alexander, because my family was in the tavern business at one time. In your opinion, can we just take that to discuss it and to get more legal background? Are we opening ourselves to a lawsuit? Because we don't do it for liquor stores, gambling institutions, taverns and bars. I'm not against it at all, as I just voted for it, but we'd be just talking about these business owners, right?
Right.
Can we take this out and
That's
bring
a
it through
good
a separate
point.
ethics ordinance, which we just we're all in favor of? I just don't want to open ourselves up to a lawsuit.
I don't know if there's no
I agree.
lawsuit that you're opening yourself up to. I mean, it's a zoning ordinance allowing for cannabis facilities to locate in certain areas of the city. And it goes through great detail, which I didn't prepare the ordinance, but the ordinance itself goes into great detail with respect to the entire subject of selling and processing and cultivating cannabis. Adding this at this point in time doesn't create any kind of legal impediment to anybody other than the members of this city council to become an owner or operator, an owner of a facility that's selling marijuana or cannabis in the city of Blue Island. If it did, it's of course subject to a legal challenge, but I don't know that there's anything precluding that. In the state statute, I know that there are prohibitions. I believe it's part of the state ethics legislation.
It is.
Prohibiting state officials from having an ownership interest, at least for a period of time for a period of time subsequent to their leaving state office. So that gives me comfort in knowing that adding something like this at this point in time doesn't create liability for the city.
I think that rule prohibits them for an additional year. So we could make
2
that part of
years.
the, okay, we could
It's
make
2
that a part of,
years.
I mean, you're not forever locked out of it, it's just a,
Right.
All right, so right now, we talked about we're going to propose an ethics ordinance, probably out of your committee, your committee.
yeah, right.
I would think it would come out of judiciary.
Yeah.
Can I add just one statement? When I'm saying wouldn't it be better in an ethics ordinance, my only concern is implementation. Do you want your zoning board asking for economic disclosure statements from any applicant so that they can make these determinations? It's not a traditional role of the zoning board to look at the ownership interests of an applicant. And to enforce this provision, at the hearings, the zoning board will have to start looking. You're going to need economic disclosure statements. And again, is it legal, is it not? It probably, I just think it's outside the role of the zoning board because their job is to review land uses and the potential negative secondary effects of that use on surrounding properties. Now we're getting into ownership interests. I just think it'd be cleaner.
But the zoning board is an advisory board in Blue Island.
Absolutely.
And the ultimate body to determine whether any kind of zoning use or special use will be allowed is the city council. And this city council is simply prohibiting its own members from being owners or having an ownership interest in an establishment. So I mean,
Could I suggest this maybe as a way to proceed? I really would prefer that we leave it stand as we have it tonight and go ahead and do our ethics ordinance.
Separately?
Yeah, and there's nothing to, there's nothing to prohibit us from coming back and amending this ordinance and taking away, to clean it up if we need to, or if we feel it's wrong, but.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify,
That's
you're
the
asking for us to
legislation, it's
develop an
already
ethics
cannabis.
ordinance with that
With that,
intention.
to
This
that
we're
point.
approving as a separate ordinance, standalone, so we can get it past the
Right.
cutoff.
Yeah.
That's, we're all clear on that.
Well,
So it's not part of this?
To
I'm sorry.
require that.
Require an ethics ordinance.
All right.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of language in that.
Sure,
That's a pretty
that's
broad
fine.
statement.
That's fine.
It was also brought to my attention that I don't know if it would come to judiciary or go to the Alderman
Public health and
Winkers.
safety.
Yeah.
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 Can we, do you want to clarify the motion? Then we're approving an amendment so that we can work on an ethics ordinance regarding this.
you approved an amendment to prohibit any elected city official to have an ownership interest in an establishment authorized pursuant to this ordinance.
And Alderman, what I'm suggesting is let's let that stand for now, do the ethic ordinance. If we want to come back later and remove that provision from this ordinance, we can do it.
As long as we're covered legally.
Yeah.
You are, there's no problem with that. So you know that the state statute says precludes any officer, member, or spouse or immediate family member living with such person during the officer or member's term in office or within a period of 2 years immediately after leaving office from holding an ownership interest in a other than a passive interest, if you own stock or something like that, as part of a traded company. But, so that's what the ethics or the ethics portion of the legislation precludes at this point in time. So, excuse me, legally, you're okay. We'll get this together as quickly as we can, so you have it. Because the city does have an ethics ordinance as well. It's been in effect for quite some time, so we'll just get it, tune it up, bring it to the Judiciary Committee for them to take a look at, and then recommend back to you as a city council. Okay.
Thank you.
And what is the purpose of the ethic agreement for the cannabis?
I'm sorry, already didn't hear what you said.
What is the purpose of the ethics agreement for the cannabis business?
What's the purpose of the ethics ordinance for the cannabis?
What's the purpose?
Yeah.
Purpose is to prevent members of the city council from having an ownership interest in the in a facility that's licensed.
Conflict of interest too. We voting on something that we own.
But nobody owns
That's
anything.
basically,
Not right now,
I mean,
no,
that's
right.
the purpose.
Nobody even has a license.
I believe that's the purpose of
An
Alderman
elected
Fairwell's
official.
That's it.
motion.
Right,
An
that's the
elected
purpose.
official can have any business within the city. So would that agreement go with that as well? Can open the business, period, in the city of Blue Island?
I don't believe that there's any such legislation precluding.
Right, so that's why I'm not understanding why is this agreement being held for this particular business?
I think what
It mirrors the state.
Alderman Farnwell said is the purpose of his motion. I don't want to speak for him.
I get that motion, but then I'm thinking, the Alderman of Second Ward for years owned Jebben's Hardware that sold hardware to the city of Blue Island. People own taverns that were elected officials, businesses, pizza places. And just to exclude this is, then we could exclude more. I'd like to be maybe, if we're gonna, you can't just put it just in one business.
I'm not so sure an alderman can own a liquor license or have
Yeah,
a
I
liquor
think this is
license anymore.
I would put it kind of on that basis. If we have a liquor license or this, it's a regulated business. I don't think it should apply to a hardware store or whatever. I mean, this is a regular city where we regulate the business. It's fairly closely regulated.
This mirrors the state statute. I mean, the state employees can't own any gaming, so it mirrors the state ethics. I can forward this to you, to all of you, actually. It's kind of interesting read.
And like Alderman, or like the Treasurer Bellato said, I have a business in town too, and I could have opportunities to work with the city. I avoid it, and not for any other reason. I just feel like, I'd rather.
We fill out
Ethics.
Do we have two other Class 8s?
Yes.
Interesting.
Number 5, we have resolution, 5 and 6 are related, they're the same property. Well, one's across the street from each other, they're the same business. Resolution 2020-008, resolution of the City of Blue Island, Cook County, Illinois, supporting the Class 8 real estate tax assessment no classification for instant trucking. They're relocating to Blue Island, 13551 Chatham Street.
You got a motion, and you got a second by Alderman Casares. Any questions? Go ahead, Alderman. No. No? All right. Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas. Aye. Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Resolution 2020-009, a resolution of the City of Blue Island, Cook County, Illinois, supporting the Class 8 real estate tax assessment classification for instant trucking, 13550 Chatham Street. That's, I believe he's building a new building there, too.
You got a motion, you got a second. By Alderman Casares again. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it for Community Development.
Thank you. Finance Committee?
Finance Committee, we have a motion to approve accounts payable for the amount of $838,427.33.
Get a motion, do we have a second? Anybody? By Alderman Hill. Any questions?
Under the Orland Fire Protection District, there's a bill here for November, and I'm just wondering why it wasn't paid in January, December, January.
I don't remember anything coming up.
Probably because we didn't have a finance director.
We didn't.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes.
All right, we have a motion to approve payroll February 7th, 2020 for the amount of $366,748.99.
Motion, do we have a second? By Alderman Rita. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas. Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
No.
Johnson, no. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 10 ayes and 1 no.
All right, ordinance 2020-004, an ordinance authorizing the sale of municipal-owned property located 12751 Lincoln Street to Blue Bridge Properties 135 LLC.
Got a motion, do we have a second? By Alderman Tom Hawley. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes.
Thank you.
All right, we have ordinance 2020-011, an ordinance authorizing the sale of municipal-owned property located at 2427 Borough Avenue to Lyric Venture LLC.
You got a motion, do we have a second? By Alderman Hill. Any questions? Go ahead.
I just want to ask, given the concerns that were brought up by Mr. Steve earlier, could someone just explain the process that we go through to sell property?
What you do is you first, this is surplus property.
Right, yeah.
So there's a resolution that was passed and adopted by the city council authorizing the staff to sell the property. The staff publishes notice, and legal notice, or the clerk publishes legal notice in I believe it's the Southtown. It's published for 10 days, and any interested party can submit proposal, a written proposal, to purchase the property, provided the property is, or the purchase price is 80% or more of the appraised value. The appraised value in this particular instance was $40,000, and the purchase price was $33,000. The city council then has to approve the ordinance by 2/3 of the corporate authorities, or in your case, 10 affirmative votes. Okay, that's the process. If the property is sold in that manner, it can be, or sold, it can be, under that statute, it can be conducted in that manner. There is also another way to sell property, which can also be implemented, but the choice here was to sell this because it's apparently, this is a vacant parcel that, I believe the old nursing home was on the parcel, so.
Motion.
I second, correct.
Roll call.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Kazatis.
Aye.
Kazatis, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Holly.
Aye.
Holly, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Abstain.
Cantelo-Zylman abstained. Pinker.
Aye.
Pinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 10 ayes and 1 abstention.
Thank you.
All right, last one we have is Resolution 2020-007, a resolution of the City of Blue Island, Cook County, Illinois, authorizing and approving an inspection and maintenance agreement with Crawford Roofing Experts LLC, and this is in regards to the roof at the rec center.
Motion, do you have a second? Alderman Carr, any questions? Go ahead.
I was looking at the contract, and the price has actually been adjusted from the price that the Municipal Services Committee approved. Was that to cover the, I noticed that the contract was also changed?
Attorney Horvath will explain its prevailing wage act.
What happened when, because the contract required prevailing wage, the contractor increased the price from the original proposal of, I believe it was $1,940 to the current price, which is $2,740 to address the prevailing wage requirement, which is something that we need to do in a contract like this, which is considered to be a public work, all right? So that's why this price was changed, and the Finance Committee reviewed the price at its last meeting and authorized it.
Okay. I mean, I just didn't know about it until I got the packet.
That's what happened.
Okay.
So then a motion is second. Roll call.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Kazatis.
Aye.
Kazatis, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Holly.
Aye.
Holly, aye. Farnwell. Aye. Farnwell, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes.
Anything else?
That's it for finance.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify, I think the question was, Ms. Carr, why the bill was paid in January, that was actually from November?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, any bill that comes in after December 31st, that is, work has been done before December 31st in that fiscal year, we pay it in January, February, even if they come in March. But it'll be accounted for in 19 because we go through the accrual method of accounting. So right now, we started 20, okay, even though the appropriation is still not done yet, completed. Once that's approved, the appropriation for 20 will be done. Okay? And those, whatever expenditures that were started in 20, addressed in 20, whatever was addressed in 19 is going to the 19. And I think the Cook County or the Orland, the fire thing, I think they build every other month, not every month. So,
Okay.
I hope that added.
Thank you very much. Public Health and Safety Committee?
We met last Tuesday. I don't have the report yet. I'll have it for the next meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 17th, but we're going to have to reschedule since that's election day. So we'll get a date and we'll get it posted.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Municipal Services Committee?
No report, Your Honor. Our next meeting is March the 10th.
Thank you. Judiciary Committee?
The meeting was called to order Tuesday, February 18th, 2020 at 7:04 p.m. in the East Annex of City Hall, 2434 Vermont Street, Blue Island, Illinois, with proper public notice given. Roll call taken of the committee with Alderman Rand Cantelo-Zylman, Alderman Johnny Ringo Hill, and Alderman Tom Hawley present. Alderman Kevin Donahue absent. Also in attendance, Alderman Candace Carr, Kimberly Byrne, and Alan Stevo. Public comment, Alderman Carr asked the committee to discuss and possibly come up with a form or process regarding the removal of diseased black tar maple trees at the constituents' expense that are planted in the city parkway. Kimberly Byrne added to Alderman Carr's comment suggesting Val Kehoe's input regarding healthy and diseased trees. Alan Stevo gave his opinion regarding the Robbie Silva case, Metro South, property at 2427 127th Street, and the Cannabis ordinance. Sexual harassment ordinance amendment, and ordinance amending the policy prohibiting sexual harassment for the city of Blue Island regarding elected officials per state of Illinois statute. Motion by Alderman Tom Hawley, second by Alderman Raymond Cantelo-Zylman. Voice vote, all in favor, and motion carried. Do you want me to finish my minutes, or?
Yeah, you can finish the minutes, we'll come back.
All right. The 21 tobacco ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 112 tobacco of Title 11 Business Regulations, the municipal code of the city of Blue Island, raising the age of tobacco use from 18 to 21 years of age per the state of Illinois statute. Motion by Alderman Hawley, second by Alderman Cantelo-Zylman. Voice vote, all in favor, motion carried. Damage claim 2455-2019, property damage claim in the amount of $929.84. Motion to pay the claim made by Alderman Cantelo-Zylman, second by Alderman Johnny Ringo Hill. Voice vote, all in favor, motion carried. Initial discussion on a possible process regarding the black tar maple trees. Next Judiciary Committee meeting is to be determined. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, March 17, 2020, but since it is election day, it was agreed to cancel the meeting. Adjournment at 7:32 p.m. A motion was made by Alderman Cantelo-Zylman, second by Alderman Hill. Voice vote, all in favor, motion carried to adjourn. So we have an ordinance number 2020-004, ordinance authorizing the sale of municipal, oops, I'm under the wrong committee here, I'm sorry. Ordinance 2020-007, an ordinance amending the policy prohibiting sexual harassment for the city of Blue Island. I'd like to put that in form of motion.
Okay, a motion, do we have a second by Alderman Bellato? Any questions? Roll call.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Fernwald.
Aye.
Fernwald, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes.
Thank you very much.
And an ordinance number 2020-008, an ordinance amending Chapter 112, tobacco Title 11 Business Regulations, the municipal code of the city of Blue Island. I'd like to put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, a motion, do we have a second by Alderman Bellato? Any questions? Roll call, please.
Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas. Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Fernwald.
Aye.
Fernwald, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. 11 ayes.
Thank you. Anything else? Alderman?
You had one property damage claim.
No, 1 minute.
I think it was in your, it's on the agenda. The claim was for the tree branch from a dead tree.
Right.
You want to pass on that, or you want to approve it? It was, the claim was
I wasn't quite sure.
$984.
Right, thank you for that. So I'd like to make that in the form of a motion to approve the property claim.
Property claim 2455-2019.
So a motion, do we have a second? Alderman Hill, any questions? Roll call, please.
Bellato.
I'm gonna pass. I need clarification. Can I ask under the question still?
Sure.
Sure.
In the past, we would deny all these without documentation. I'm assuming there's a lot of documentation on this one?
Correct.
The file was heavily documented and the
I just
damage
was curious.
was significant.
I figured it had to be,
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Hawley.
Aye.
Ollie, aye. Farinwald.
Aye.
Farinwald, aye. Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
Aye.
Clinker, aye.
That one, B. Wills was me. No.
Johnson, no. Alexander.
Aye.
Just for
Alexander,
conservative
aye. No.
Thank you much. Anything else, Alden?
Yeah, you know, for next time, since I haven't had very many of these, this is probably what my second. So when I say this during minutes, so it just says property damage approved, and then I make that in the form of a motion?
Sure.
Or, I wasn't quite sure how to do it because it was worded differently.
You have to get the city council's approval to settle the claim.
Okay.
All right?
So just read it like,
Yeah, like
all right, there we go. Thank you for that clarification.
Nothing else? Any aldermanic announcements or comments? Alderman, go ahead.
Santonadas Feast Carnival will be taking place this year, August 5th through the 9th. I called my first meeting, and we're getting moving, and hopefully we can continue the tradition going. We lost our chairman of 30, 40 years, Robert Bob Signor, and we're going to keep trudging through and keep running our fest for over 115 years now. So August 5th through the 9th, and we'll make it hopefully 116 years. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Alderman.
There's flyers for the town hall meeting Thursday in the back.
Alderman, go ahead.
And then at the John D. Rec Center, we're celebrating Black History Month. It is Saturday, February 29th at 5 p.m. This is from Mr. Jackson. Come join us as we pay tribute to Black History Month. This celebration will include special guest speakers, honorees, stage play, vendors, food, and fun for the entire family, so come and enjoy.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? According to council, we have nothing on number 8, so I need a motion for adjournment. There you go. Rita, do I have a second? Alderman Carr? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Be careful with the